At this point, we have an application that's pretty much ready to be compiled and turned into a what's called a runtime version of the software. Um, I should caution you that you want to make sure that everything is really working right before you start doing any of what I'm about to do. And I actually have a little list of the things you want to go and look out for. Uh, it's in the L07 lesson document. It's on page 23, I think, right now. Um, you have some bullets at the bottom where I say you have a system that is ready to be made into a compiled application when you have accomplished all of the following. Everything has been built and is aesthetically pleasing with clear end user help. In other words, you've gone in and you've polished it up and it looks the way it ought to be, and you put all the good guidance that you need on the screen for the end user not to get in trouble. The application flow and control has been tested and they are working. So things like how we did the filter for the report in the last tutorial, that you've actually tested those things out thoroughly and they're working correctly. Uh, Data management functions on your form have been tested and pertinent examples with pertinent examples, and they are working properly. So again, that if there's any kind of uh, special message that you need to give on the screen, you got that working. Like how we had the message that popped up that said that you needed to pick a customer off of off of the customer combo box that we had there. That's one of the things that would be a thing that you want to make sure works. And on all the data management functions, that all your conditional formats are working correctly, that any derived control is not getting an error value in it. Because once you compile it, you're stuck with that. Then those errors would be there, and it'll be stuck with it. Um, Tab orders on the forums are correct, and control tab pages make sense. You labeled them correctly. You've got good groupings and logical groupings of your fields, or I should say the controls for your fields. Um, all workflow items like record finders and end user decision dialog boxes are tested and working. All forms and report properties are set. All macro errors and other unexpected glitches have been debugged. Test your macros out thoroughly. If you get a message that says debug, that means you've got a problem, and it's going to be there when you compile it too. So, in this, you're going to see this compiling, even though it's a straightforward procedure and doesn't take too long. It's not something that you want to have to do many times. And then finally, workflow between forms and reports works as expected. The switchboard and whatever other navigation form you may end up using is the control center is the control center of the application. In other words, it is the place that you're always going to come back to reach other areas. It is what we sometimes refer to as a control center for the application. So once you know you've got all that ready to go, then you are pretty much ready to start the process of compiling and then developing a runtime. So the first thing you do, always, when you are about to start this, is back up your ACCDB file. So this is the file we've been working on for this tutorial, for the lesson 7 tutorials. I've already got the switchboard created. I've got the filter for the report, for the customer order report is in here. So what I want to do is I want to back it up. So I just do a copy and a paste to back it up. And the main reason I'm doing this is because when you turn in your files for um, the assignment for this uh, lesson, AO7, and for your final project, PO3, you will be compiling them. You will be creating a runtime. And I need to get the file, uh, the pre-compile file. So I would have to turn this one in, and then I'm going to turn in the runtime file, and you'll see that will end up becoming what's called an ACCDR file. These are ACCDB files, the ones we've been creating all semester. You'll want to turn this one in, but then you're going to have this new one that will be an ACCDR file. So anyway, I've got this ACCDB file that's a copy now, and that's really I'm going to save that as my backup, if you will. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go up here and say dash. Sometimes call this the raw file. You could do that. You call it original, whatever you want to call it, but somehow indicate that this is the file that basically contains the pre-compiled application. If you want to say pre-compiled, feel free. I'm going to call it raw. Okay. And then this is the file now that I'm going to actually compile. So to do that, I open it up, and I just have to double click on it right now, but you're going to see in a second we're going to have to change the way we open it not long from now. We have the database system that's already been built. We have the dialog box that we created. If you haven't done this, you would need to do this before we start compiling, obviously. And of course, you have to have your switchboard developed, and I'm just going to open that up in design view so I don't have to click. But you can see we got the switchboard and it's completely developed and ready to go. So now, before you do anything else, there is an optional step. For this class, we will not do this, all right? But if you're out there using the ball in practice, one of the things you can do is separate your tables from the other objects. In other words, what it'll do is it will basically take these tables, put them into another file, and then only have links here to those tables. Why does it do that? Remember, I told you that in the last video that one of the things that's going to happen here when we compile this is it's going to compile our forms, our reports, macros, procedures, queries will be protected, but the one thing that's not protected are tables. The way to protect tables is to separate them from the application and then put those tables on a server that is itself protected, and from the original file have links to that. All right, so it'd be a server that you actually put protection on the files of the server so they can't be deleted or anything. But you do have the capability to modify things that are on that server by linking to them, and Access will actually establish. You will put those when you do a separation. It'll actually do that separation for you. You will tell it where you want it to be, and it will establish those links for you. And to see how you do that, actually, you go up here to Database Tools. Is that where it's at? I always forget where it's at because I don't do it very often in this class. Save export. I should have looked this up before I did this. Maybe it is in the Database Tools. Access. Yeah, Move Data. I'm sorry, this is it. Where it says Move Data. Now, by the way, you can move data to SharePoint too. All right, I haven't done a whole lot of that. I did it once just to see how it works. But again, when you move data to SharePoint, that data is actually moving out of your database into SharePoint. So be careful about that. I think I would rather go the other way around if I'm using SharePoint, and that is to connect to data in a Access table or an Access file somewhere. But to do this, I would just say click this thing that says Access Database, and it says Split Database, and you hit that, and then I'm going to do it because I don't think it will actually do that right now. Let's see, what it's going to do is prompt me, do I want to save this to this file? And if I say split, then it will actually do that. It'll create a file called T07-01 Huffman underscore BE.ACCDB. Now I'm telling you right now, do not do this for the assignment or for your file and project. Do not create a back end file, because if you do, I won't be able to reestablish those links and I won't be able to see if you did the thing right or not. Okay, say that in the instructions for both of those, for the assignment and for the final project. I say that do not split it out. Invariably, somebody will do it, and a lot of times they're doing it because they're trying to stall for time, and I don't care. You won't get points. I'll penalize you for doing it. So do not do this step. That's why I make it step 00. It says step 00B optional. And again, it's optional if you're out in the world doing it. But for this class, we will not do this. Right now, I'm going to cancel this so I don't do that. But if I had said okay, it would have split it. It would have created that file. It would have moved these tables into that file. I would still see these names here, but you would see a big bold arrow next to it. And that indicates that it's linked to that. Okay, and it's linked wherever I put that. Right, that came up in the same directory that this file is in right now. But I could have picked any file on any server and it would have put it there. So again, if there's a server where I have complete protection of things, nobody could just go in there and delete things. Then I can put that out there and create the links. And you can even manage the links so that if things move, you can move them later on. That is something I really get into in the advanced class where I talk about data networking. Uh, it's kind of out of the scope for this class, but if you are interested in that, there's a lot of documentation out on the internet about it. All right, so now let's get into the real process here of how we're going to do this. Okay. By the way, if you want to see how that links, if you look on page 25, you'll see what the back end database will look like versus the database here. And it's got, I said the arrows were on this side. They're actually at the beginning. The arrows are right here, would be here, that indicate that those are linked. And the only thing, by the way, that you can link are tables. You can't link forms or anything like that. At least not that I'm aware of. All right, so let's do the first real step here, okay? Um, Actually, the first step was to back it up, truthfully. And I should put that in there and make sure you back it up. But um, we have been dealing with these ribbons up here throughout the semester. And some of them are there for data management. Like when we open up a table like this, you can see we go to home and you got all the things to do data management. But you also have these things where it allows you to create tables and do things that you may not want the end user to do. So what we like to do is replace that ribbon with a ribbon that actually will only allow the user to do the things that they want to do. And I've already built those. Okay, I've built special ribbons for managing data that you'll use from forms, and then to visualize data, and then print it out, whatever else you want to do from reports. So there's a ribbon for forms and there's a ribbon for reports. There's also a ribbon for the whole application that I built, and they are generic. You won't ever have to do anything with those ribbons. They're already pre-built for you, but we will have to link them to our objects. So, but the first thing to do is let the system know about those ribbons. I have right in here now the rest of the BAL objects that we'll use for this class. One of them is this one here that says TEMP USys ribbons. All right. What you need to do on that is just highlight it. And again, don't open this or anything. Don't open this file or anything. If you do, I'll do it right now. You can see it, but don't do this yourself. If I open this up right now, what you get is basically and you would not want to change the structure of this or anything that's in here. Okay, it's basically got a ribbon name and then it's got XML code for that. This is actually a memo field that goes on and on and on and on with XML code for the ribbon. And again, you do not need to play around with this. Do not do anything with this or else it will hose up your application. But we do need it for the application, so don't play with it. Anyway, let's go in here, and what we want to do is rename this. So you just go here and do a rename. And you see the TEMP part of that? Highlight it, delete it, and hit enter. And if you did that right, it should have just disappeared. That actually became part of the system now. We actually modified Microsoft Access to have those ribbons as part of the system. Later on, when we link those to forms and reports. When the form opens up, it'll open that ribbon. When a report opens up, it'll open that ribbon. When we compile this and make it turn into runtime, the default ribbon will disappear. It knows that you shouldn't be playing with this stuff because it allows you to delete things and modify things that you may not want to have modified. So it'll delete that, but our customized ribbons will still be there, and we'll be able to use them. So the next thing I want to do is now it says copy the special access keys. I've already put those in here for you. Okay, so you have this file here that's called auto keys. This is a macro that runs when the application starts up. No matter what, you start up, auto keys will run. And what I've done in this auto keys macro, if you open it up in design view, you could see it's got all these things that are called a sub macro. It says beep and blah blah blah. Sub macro, and it's got what these mean different things. These are keystrokes. And what I've done is I basically turned all the keystrokes for the application that into a beep. Why did I do that? Because some of these keystrokes will do things like open up the navigation pane, and you don't want that. We're going to close down the navigation pane so that it can never be opened. We don't want them to be able to get to the objects and delete them and all that. But there is a code, there is a key code that will do that. And there's key codes for a lot of things in Access, and you really don't need them if you're in an application. Now, the one I do sometimes tell people is there is a way for you to actually define your own help. And if you want to do that, you could turn off this F1. Okay, a lot of the compiled versions of the assignments I gave you and other things had the had originally had F1 turned off, and then I realized, oh, you can't hit help when you do that, and find out what Microsoft is saying. So I took this macro out, this particular one, but the rest of them are all there. Unfortunately, I also forgot that the Alt F2 can expand a memo field box in a lot of them. So some of the early ones I actually did fix where you could do that. But again, most of the time when I have a memo field and I'm working from a form, I'm going to give them enough space on the form. They're never going to work from a data sheet. We will never have them open a data sheet. So I turn that one off too. That Alt F2. Okay, the curly brackets. You can look this up. Just go on Microsoft's site and look up what the sub macro command, and it'll tell you what the curly brackets mean versus the caret curly brackets. Some of these means functions, some mean control function, some mean alt function. There's a whole bunch of ones, and then there's some that like alt N, for instance, opens up the navigation pane, and I didn't want that to happen. Over the years, I've kind of discovered these by accident. I have never found anywhere where they're all documented. But I'm sure there may still be some that could cause something to open that could be nefarious. So I want to be, as I go through, as I discover those things, I keep updating the auto keys. But anyway, you don't have to do anything to this, truthfully, okay? Unless you are actually writing a help system, then you might want to get rid of the function F1, which is the first one in there. Get rid of that macro. Some people have asked me, how do I write a help thing? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you go into some of these things, there's a property, I believe, like on forms. Let's see, is that on forms? Do they have one? Yeah, help file. You can have a help file and then give it a context ID. Again, if you want to do something like that, go out and just Google help file or help context ID access, and it'll point you to the Microsoft site and maybe some other examples of how to do that. I have done help files in the past, but I don't do them very often. One thing, though, since I'm talking about it, that you may want to do every now and then, if you really want to build a robust application, you can build a tooltip on controls. Remember how in a lot of Microsoft stuff, when you hover on it, you get a little yellow box that opens up that says something like maybe what the description usually has at the bottom. You could do that. There's usually something called a tool tab. Yeah, control tip text right here. If I said right here, enter the company name for the, I'm on this one right now. I'm highlighting that one. If it was country, let's go to country because that one had a gold one around anyway. Let's go to web page. Web page. I could go in here and say, uh, enter the web page, and then when I hover on that control, that would actually pop up on the screen. And I do that a lot. I didn't ask you to do that because we've already got a description at the bottom here when they cursor into it. But if you want to give it even more, if you wanted to have for each of the pages, say on this tab, I believe there's a, yep, there's a control tip for that. So you could hover on that and give it a little bit more information. We've already got so many labels on the screen. I think we've already given them enough information. But if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to make your application like other Microsoft products, you could do that. Maybe when you hover over this, its tool tip comes up or whatever. But you got the option to do those kind of things. That's a little extra here on this one. All right, so we have the auto keys taken care of. Now there's another one that's called auto exec. If you've ever used the auto exec in Excel, it's the same type of thing. It's a file that has some macro commands in it that will run as soon as the application opens. Now I'm going to open that up for you and show you what I have in there. All right. All there is this thing that says hide message bar. That's it. In the old days, I used to have to put a lot in here. I used to have a lot of things to set up the environment and ready it for the application, but and then open up the display the switchboard. Since it's the first thing I want to have open, I would have an open form and open the switchboard from here. Okay, in the most recent versions of Access, all those things I used to have to take care of in here have been fixed. They're in an option. You could go into the options for the database and set it up, and we're going to do that in a little while, okay? And you could even say what form you want to have open first on the screen, and it knows that it needs to open up any. It needs to open up um, um, my custom toolbars based on what's on the screen. Okay. The one thing it doesn't do, though, I found out is that sometimes if you open up an ACCDR file in read only mode, it will generate a message, something to the screen that actually allows them to open up the application's guts. Okay, I even got a little thing up here that says the following command suppresses the Microsoft Access message that allows users to regenerate the ACCDB file when the ACCDR opens in real-time mode. This is a common problem running ACCDR files from a hyperlink. It defaults to read only. So and what I'm saying here is maybe later on you have a say a website and you want a hyperlink that's going to open up your runtime application. When you do that, it's going to try to open it up in what's called read only mode. And when it attempts to do that, Microsoft will realize, oh, this has been done as a runtime version. To do read only, I have to really have it in ACCDB. So I'm going to actually generate the ACCDB file, and then they've got a copy of your code. I don't know what Microsoft was thinking on this one. That's a very, very dangerous thing. But I did find out that the way to suppress that message from happening is to do a hide message bar, and that hides the message bars that would be generated from the environment, from Windows, basically, okay, and not the ones that are generated from Access. So we'll be good with all those messages that we did build in macros. Those will still be there, but this one will not, and that's good. That's what we want. So bottom line is, on the auto keys in the auto exec, you do nothing. But they have to be there. Don't delete them. They have to be there. Just like the MCR on no data, it has to be there. If you're using a report and you're saying don't open it if there's no data, that has to be there. So these three macros have to be here in your application. And by the way, I should mention, even if you didn't have a report, keep the macro on no data there. It doesn't hurt anything being there. It doesn't take up hardly any space in the application. But then later on, if you decided to add a report, you'd have it and you'd be able to reference it. So why delete it? Just more work for you if you have to bring it back. Okay, I believe that's all I needed to say on step one. Now I'm on step two, and even though we have our customized ribbon now in the system, it has to be registered with the system. In other words, Access needs to know it's really there so that we could basically link it to other things. We could link it to reports and the forms. So in order to do that, and we're going to have to close and open this a couple times, we're going to go up here and we're just going to do a close. We're just going to close our application. All right. Now, in doing that, it just registered those ribbons. So now I can just double click on it again to open it up. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to go on each of my forms, each of the forms that start with FRM. Okay. In the future, I'm actually working on a new subject form that's going to have a different prefix, and you will have to do this on those two. But basically, the forms that are at the top, which is the forms that manage data and are at the top, you need to do this on. Now, feel free to do it on all of them if you want to. Except, well, I shouldn't say that. No, don't do that. You only want to do this on right now on the ones that start with FRM. I want to make sure. Do not set the ribbon on dialog, lookup, or switchboard forms. Yeah, I actually say that in the instructions for the tutorial. Do not set the ribbon on the dialog form, the switchboard form, and any subforms. So all these FSPs and FJNs and the FAU, you don't want to do it there either, and you don't want to do it on lookup forms. So yeah, the only thing that's left are the subject forms. So on the subject forms, you want to do this. All right. So let's go to customer first and open it up in design view. If you don't have the property sheet open for the form, open it. Again, if it I shouldn't have to show you this by now, but just put your cursor over here somewhere and do property sheet and make sure it's for the form. If you go down near the bottom of this now, you'll see a thing that says ribbon name. Because we registered those ribbons, they will be available to us in this drop down. So if I hit the drop down, if you don't see anything now, you didn't register them somehow. We went RBN form. Now, try to make sure you pick the right one. There's going to be two there. For forms, you want the one that says form. For reports, you want the one that says report. Okay, and again, we're just doing this on the ones that start FRM right now. So that's the one for the customer. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it down. And now I'm going to go to FRM customer order, open it up in design view. And if you did that right, you should still see RBN name ready to go here. So let's go in there and pick the form. I'm going to save it, close it down. And I know this is a little repetitive, but not a big deal. It doesn't take that long. A lot easier than trying to code this in C, that's for sure. And we do that and close it down. And then we're going to do this FRM supplier product design view and FRM and save it and close it down. All right. Now, that's the forms. That when you open up one of those subject forms, you click on a button in the switchboard form, it opens up a subject form. It will open up and its ribbon will open up. And the ribbon will have all the things you need to do to manage the data, the typical things you would work with, like saving the record or searching on the record or ordering things A to Z. You could do all that stuff. Okay. So now I want to do a similar operation with ribbons. Unlike forms where I just did it for the subject form, for ribbons, do this for all of them. I keep saying ribbons. Reports, for reports, we want to do what I'm about to do for all of them. Whether they're the top report or the bottom, because remember, reports can stand by themselves, and I may want to do that sometime. It doesn't hurt anything if this is in there multiple times on reports. It could hurt things on forms, but not on reports. So I'm going to go just down the track here. I'm just going to open them up in design view. And you should see that should still be near the ribbon because that was the last thing I used. So it's ribbon name. But now instead of form, I'm going to pick report. Save it, close it. Next one, open it up, design view. Sometimes it gets a little slow, but that's okay. Report. Yeah, some people can't. Do I have to say, yeah, you just close it and hit yes. I just didn't want that beep, so it annoys you. Let's go here, design view. And report. Oh, didn't take it. Report. Gotta be right on there, else it won't take it. Gotta watch that. Okay. You get the idea here. I'm just gonna finish this out. Yeah, it does do. It is kind of annoying. I guess they want to get your attention that you didn't save. Do you really want to save it? Yes. Okay. All right. So now those all have the forms and report ribbons associated with them. When I run this, you'll see what that does. Okay. All right. So, so I make sure I didn't forget anything on that step. No, I did not. I'm looking at the tutorial actually as I'm doing this for you. So the tutorial steps in the lesson. All right. So now what I want to do is set the options for this. Now, it's really at this point on where things are going to start becoming automatic in the application. So, what I want to do is I want to go up here on File and hit Options, click Options, and you'll see one of the options in here. Don't mess with any of these other ones, but one of the options in here is Current Database. And this is where you could put a title on this. Remember the title would be the bar that's the big black bar at the top. And you can kind of see that right here. I got the International Marketplace 2017. That's what this is right here. So if I wanted to change that to 2020, I can do that. Something like that, whatever. I usually don't do things like add years in a title. I'm just doing that for sake of demonstration because what happens in 2021 when you move on, then it's out of date. I'd have to open up the application just to change this. So truthfully, I would probably just make it international markets, the international marketplace or something like that. I mean, if you want the version number, you could say dot v 2020 or something like that, and then get another one, you will update it to be the new version. So you could always do that. Even if this goes out to 2025, you at least know that they have the one from 2020. I tend to do things like versions in the pop-up dialog, the splash form that comes up at the top. I'll usually say version whatever. In fact, I think I did that here. I can't get back there right now, but I'll go there later on and show you that. I would suggest not creating an application icon at this point. Application icons allow you to put something on your desktop. The problem is, and I've noticed this over the years, especially if you start separating your application from your data, uh, that not everybody has the reference to the server to be the same. Now, you could use an alias. There is a way to do that, and that helps. And I know you probably don't know what I'm talking about right now, but any of you have ever done network programming know that you don't ever want to put something literally. You don't have a literal reference to a server, like saying C colon or D colon. But unfortunately, that's how Microsoft will actually do it by default. To make an alias, you have to go in there and actually build the alias to make it the alias. Now, this is not the same alias that we talked about when we build queries, where we had an alias derived field that was an alias. This is an alias for a server, a physical server out there, and because of that, you could create an application icon that, I mean, it works on this machine, but somebody tries to copy that and put it on another machine, and then it doesn't work. So I found it's better not to create an icon for the desktop here Rather, it's better to go out on the desktop itself, create the icon, and then just point to the file in order to make it run. So I usually leave that blank. We do want a display form, and it will always be FSW application. At least it will be what if you're using a switchboard, it'll be FS the BAL object, and for this class, that's what we use. It'll be FSW application. We want the status bar on, and please keep these as tab documents. Do not make them overlapping windows. The problem, overlapping windows means that, you know how our forms came up looking like they were in a big control tab. We had the switchboard, and then we had a tab for the first form we opened, and then it closed down. Then we went to a report, and there was a tab for the report. Leave it like that, because if you do overlapping windows, you have to close them down individually, and you could actually have multiple open at the same time. All right. If you do that, though, you can run into a lot of dangers and a lot more work for yourself. And what I mean there is that, let's say I have a form that has a data value that's reliant on another form, and I really like to have it filled out in the other form first. With tabs, I can control that. That has to be done before another one can be opened. If I have overlapping windows, I might be able to open them at the same time, and then the form may not have the information it needs in the other one when people are working in it, and you get referential integrity errors and all kinds of things. It takes a lot of work sometimes to synchronize windows that are not tabbed documents. The other thing is, I've noticed that some of the nice advanced features that we're not getting into in this class rely on tab documents. They don't work well with overlapping windows. So I highly discourage the use of overlapping windows. I used to use them a lot, but that was in the days before we had Microsoft actually built synchronization into the into Access. Now that it's built into Access, I prefer that with just you use that, okay? There are only some certain situations where I might want an overlapping window, and I wouldn't even declare that here, okay? I would do that using what's called dialog windows that are overlapping by their nature. Okay, for the default environment, keep it at tabbed windows. And you want to display tab documents. Okay, now that's all good. From this point on, things change. You want to turn off use the special keys. Remember, we're trying to override Access's special keys anyway. Turn off those. Now, it turns off most of them. It doesn't turn off all of them. If you don't turn this off and that for some reason failed, they could start getting into the background and do things. Some people click this compact on close. I don't. Okay, there's other ways to compact outside. I'd rather do that. But if you think that they could be adding a lot of data to the application and taking it out and adding more and taking it out, where the size is just starting to explode, then you could turn that. You could turn this on. That one is probably okay. The rest of them, though, you want to turn off. You don't want them ever getting a layout view. You don't want them to work in data sheets. This check for truncated number fields. I don't even know what that does. Tell you the truth, I've never, but I do know that most people, when they compile their stuff, turn that off. So I do too. These aren't off on buttons. You just leave those as they are. Okay. We want to not display the navigation pane. This is critical. Just turn that off. All right. If you have that on and the navigation pane is expanded, it'll be expanded on the screen, and they'll be able to delete the objects. So we want to turn that off. You don't need to put a ribbon name in here. In the old days, I used to have to do that. You'll see our ribbon form and report are in there. No ribbon. You don't need that, okay? And you do not want to. Oh, I have to look at this one really quick. I can't remember. It's been a while since I did this. Yeah. You do not want to allow full menus, and you do not want to allow default shortcut menus. Allowing a full menu would not only have your customized, even in a runtime version, would not only allow the customized ribbons to be there, but also the Access default ribbons to be there. And those default ribbons have things like there's one that says edit object where it would bring, they could come up and hit edit and it take put your object in edit mode and they could start deleting things off the screen. All right. So you don't want that on. And then this one, allow default shortcut menus. This one really pains me because most of them, the shortcut menus, that's when you right click on something and it comes up with a shortcut menu with just the most popular options. Almost all of them are terrific in Access, except one. That's the one where you're managing data. And believe it or not, at the bottom of it, hey, there's an option that's of that shortcut menu is an option to edit the object, which again would open it up in design view and allow you to mess things up. It's unfortunate. I don't know why Microsoft, if they would just take out that one, we might be able to leave the default shortcut menus on, but we're not going to do that. Now, some people have asked me, is there a way to actually create a shortcut menu if I wanted to customize one? Yes, there is. In fact, there is for controls and for forms and for reports. There is, if you look in their properties, there's a thing for a shortcut menu, and you can create a macro that basically has the functions that you want in it. All right, but again, that's beyond this class. I do things like that in the advanced class. For this class, we're not going to worry about it because they will have all the functionality they need somewhere in order to do this. These ones at the bottom, I would say don't worry about them too much. Um, just leave them as they are. So really, the ones you want to change are the ones from the special keys all the way down to allow default menus. You want to turn everything off. Again, you can have compact on close click if you want to. And then down here, leave these as they are. These autocorrect things, it's not a big deal. The index things, leave them alone, okay? And these things at the bottom are something that's brand new, using the cache that is compatible with. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need about worry about clearing the cache or anything like that. Just leave that as it is. This one right here, though, that says don't display lists that are more than a certain number of records. What happens typically is when Access does a search on a data sheet, it will only bring back a certain number of records at a time, and then you basically have to go to the bottom and say bring back more, bring back more. If you wanted to bring back more than 1,000 at a time, you could put that there. I used to always change this to be 1,000,000. All right, but then I realized that it does sometimes slow things down. And the thing is, we're never going to be working with data sheets, at least not in this class, in an application. That would only be something we would do for ourselves, in the background. So, um, yeah, you can actually open up a form in datasheet view, and then this may come into play. But I have found that 99.9% of the time, this works just fine. It's only on databases where you get tables that have an extraordinary amount of records. Like we're up in the tens of millions. Then things get kind of, then this could come into play and really slow you down. I have one though where I had several 100,000 records, and I found that by increasing this a little bit, it helped, but it also slowed down any indexing that needed to happen. So it's a fine line. I would just recommend that you don't do anything on this. So let's say OK. And now it's going to say you must close and reopen the database for that to take effect. And we want to do that. So let me see. Let me make sure got everything I wanted to do here, that I didn't overlook anything there. No, I don't see any other functions I need. Okay. So let's just say OK here. Now it's not going to actually close it down for me. I could do more work, but just understand that those options will not take effect until you do that. All right. So um, I have a step in here, step 6, and again it says optional, and that is that if you have queries that are being used by just one form or one report, you may want to encapsulate those into the report before you do this. And what I mean by that is, Do I have one here? I don't have any queries, unfortunately, on this. But let's say RPT supplier was linked to a query called QRY supplier. I could go into RPT, I could go into QRY supplier. Didn't mean to close down my forms. Open up its SQL code, copy that. Once I know it's working, I could copy that in. Then I could open up RPT suppliers, go to design view, and on its record source where I have the query, I could just put that SQL code in there. In other words, wouldn't use the query object anymore. It would actually just use the SQL code directly. All right. In doing that, then I can actually delete that query if I don't if I want to. But by having it here, then when it compiles the form, it'll compile that SQL into it. It's yet another thing you can do if you're worried about security on your queries, because it turns out for some, depending on what kind of server you put your database on, queries they might be able to get through the back door and get to the queries and actually activate them from an external source. So if you don't want to have queries, there's usually some way to encapsulate them on the thing that they're built for. So, we did encapsulate queries. We encapsulated a query for the row sources for the find record control. We did it for the row source for our lookup table, our lookup fields. We did it for the row source for the customers on the when we filtered the customer order report. We actually had the SQL code there. We didn't have a reference to a query object, but if we had a query object in the record source for a report, we can copy that SQL code, the select query, the select statement with all its parameter information, and other syntax to the record source for the report. Okay, it turns out same thing for a form. We didn't use queries very much on forms. The only time we did was when we had in fact, I think it was when we did the customer payment card. Boy, I'm surprised, and I should have a query on here. Where is it? When I did customer payment card, which is in a one-to-one with customer, how did I do that? Sorry, I just need to look up something really quick here. So I'm not seeing a query for it. Well, I only had table customer. How did I get the payment card information in there then? Boy, that's interesting. I did that different, and then I did it on the. Oh, I know why. Because it joined. It automatically joined it. Things you learn. Okay. Remember, I actually brought it in with a query on the main one when I did before, but you could also do it this way. That's yet another way of doing it. I could do it just on. What I'm talking about here is I've got this as a sub report in here. It's not, the payment isn't in there as part of the main record. So because it's in a sub report, it basically will build that join for me automatically when I dump it in here. I'm going to step back here because I think I know I've confused some of you right now. All right. When we did the customer, uh, when we did the previous time when I think it was a customer and then I had a payment card. What I went in is I created a query that had a left outer join between TBL customer and TAU customer plus payment card, so that all those fields, the customer fields, and the payment card fields, were basically all at the same level. And then I put that into a form where I had a tab that had information about it. And then I got to the payment card, and all I had to do was drop those in. This is another way to do it. Boy, I'm glad I looked at this because this is a nice little tip. Another way to do it is I could have just had customer as the TBL customer as the source for the main, and then build a subform. That's what I did here. I got FSP, where's that? FAU, yeah, FAU customer plus payment card. Okay, and then that is dropped in here. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I wonder why I made it FAU. It should have been FSP probably. Oh no, it's not a supplement. Yeah, it's a auxiliary form. I'm sorry, it's an auxiliary form. So yeah, we didn't see one of those until now. Okay, but here's another way to do it, and it works just like the supplemental form or the junction form. You basically build it in there, but the form only has as its source the auxiliary table. And then when I drop it in, it knows that it's going to create a one-to-one. It knows that it's creating that link, and that link can only be uh, on one other record, right? Because that's the nature of the master-child link that's going to be created automatically here. So, boy, I'm glad I did that. I forgot I did that. You know, that's something I probably should have shown in other semesters. I just happened to stumble upon it right now. Anyway, um, I have to make a note of that so I remember that in future classes. Anyway, but if I did, going back to what I was originally talking about, if I had a query, if I had queries in here that were dedicated to a report or to a form, I can actually put those directly onto the report and form as record sources. The syntax for the select query, and then once I've got that, I can delete the query. That's why in here you're not seeing any queries. Okay, there's no queries in here. I either already resolved them in the syntax of the thing, or in fact, on this one, I don't think I ever even had to use one because I just used the tables for everything. Just want to make sure about that. Let me go and look at each one of these. Customer orders. Is that done with just... No, there's an example, okay? I had a query that basically created this record source, the record source for this report. And then after I knew it was working, I went over to that query and I brought it up in SQL view and I saw this select. I'm going to open it up all the way so you can see it. And this is the query for it. Yeah, I know this is kind of wild, isn't it? Isn't it an interesting query? It joins a lot of things. This basically brings back the customer elements of the customer table, elements of the customer order table, elements of the customer order in relationship to the supplier product, and then the supplier product table too. I could have brought back supplier too, I guess, information if I could put that one in there. The one thing that you need to note here, and this is another one I'm glad I opened. Okay, these are all inner joins, which means that that was only opening on customers that actually had orders, right? And I said that before. We weren't seeing when we opened that up the customers that didn't have orders. I think I mentioned this already. I went through this and did that for you. But you can see how complicated some of these can get. If I wanted all the customers, even if they didn't have orders, I could have made this a left outer join. I remember telling you that now from the last one. So yeah, I know. Let's just save it. It just wants to save its um, the fact that I spread those out. That's all. I just wanted to save the diagram for me. But anyway, that put that select statement in there. If you remember, all you have to do is go up there to View, SQL, and you would see the select statement. And then you could just right now it's highlighted. I could just do a Control C, and that's what I did. I went to the object that I created, the query object that I created, and I opened up its SQL, and I did it was highlighted, and I copied it, and then I just came over here, and instead of having the reference to that object, if you hit the drop down, I had the reference to that object, and of course it's gone now, so it wouldn't be in there. But then I just basically deleted that and did a Control C here, saved it, and it was actually a perfect substitution, so there wasn't any issues with it. And now that is actually part of the report object, and later on when I compile this thing, that will be compiled in with the report object. No one will ever be able to get in here and mess with it. So that's a nice thing to do. Okay. Now again, I said that was an optional thing to do, and again, for this class, I'm not going to ask you to go and resolve all your queries. You especially don't want to resolve any query where it might be shared. All right. Otherwise, well, I mean, you could copy it to each place, the SQL code to everywhere where it's shared, but and you don't have to do that. You probably don't want to ever do that on a query that's a source to another query. We call that subquerying. And I again, something I didn't do in this class, but I'll probably talk about it yet before the end of the class. But something I do in the advanced class that I sometimes teach is we did get into what I call more complicated queries, where queries could have embedded queries, or queries can be queries of other queries. We do things like that. So querying is people who really master databases. Querying is the real art to the science sometimes. Okay, and I say that it's really the science to the art sometimes too. All right, never mind. Um, so I'm moving on to step 7, and one of the things now, I didn't say optional on this. I'd like you to do this. Okay, um, one of the things you'd want to do is to hide your objects just in case. And this is, I don't, I can't imagine this would happen, but somehow the end user figures out a way to open up your navigation pane, and then they see this stuff and they could delete it. You could hide these. All right, now we're going to hide them, and then they're really going to they're going to look like they're disappearing. That's why I said make sure whatever you needed to do, you've done already. All right. In fact, that thing I did where I the queries where I took the SQL and put it into it, you probably should have done that too before you even started this process. You don't want to actually change any objects at this point if you don't have to. I need to update my lessons so that I say that up front. You know that step 6 really ought to be done before we did any of this, so that you have that as part of the raw database. But anyway, um, what I want to do now is I want to hide all this stuff. Okay, so that in case somebody opens it up, they can't get to it. We are really done with all the objects here. We don't need to do anything else to them. Now, some people will just do this. That really didn't hide it. That just collapsed it. To hide it, and I'm going to do the tables first. Now, one thing I should point out before I do the tables, if you had linked the tables, did a back end and linked the tables, you don't want to hide them now. All right, I found that could cause problems. I don't remember what. It's been so long. I just made a note to myself, don't ever do that, and so I never do. Um, Hiding the objects will make them inaccessible to other databases that attempt to import them. Uh, you do not need to hide the table links if you separated the table from the other system. I'm just saying you don't need to do tables if you've already separated them. I guess you could, but I don't think you need to. Anyway, what I'm doing right now is I just highlighted them all, and you see this says hide in this group, bam, and it just hid it. Actually, it hid the whole group. Its tables went away. I could come here and select all of the forms, hide in this group. I don't think I could do them all. Let's see. Let's go like this. Yeah, maybe you can. Yeah, you just could have just selected them all, and now they look like they're gone. They're really there. They've just been sent to the background. All right, and at this point, I usually close down the navigation pane like that. Remember, I've got it in the options for the database now, not to show the navigation pane. So close it. It would, after it's in runtime mode, it would be closed by default. All right. In fact, you're not even going to see anything that says navigation pane on it here. Uh, but I just close it down just because it's a sanity thing more than anything else. And then I'm going to do a compact and repair. All right. Okay. Now, when you did that, after you do a compact repair, it's actually going to run the application. Remember, we have it so that it opens up the switchboard automatically. All right, and that's what it did. It basically what it did just now is basically really fast closed and opened the file when you compacted and repaired it. That's what I think happened in the background. It may not have closed it, but it reran it. All right, we want to actually close this file right now. So you could just hit the X up here in the upper right hand corner, or you can even hit this X here that says, do you really want to quit the session, and say yes, and it'll close it. All right, and you'll see my link file disappeared there. That LACCDB file was there for a split second and disappeared. All right, at this point, I always back up my file again because we're about to make it into a compiled version. At this point, I call this that we have already applicationized our file. Applicationized our file, our Access file. I am on step 10 right now. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to back up this file. So I am going to go and do a copy of that file, and I'm going to paste it in, and I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to rename it I usually say ready or something like that. Um, I think I compile. I think that's what I usually call it. In other words, this file is ready to be compiled. This is the point where it was ready to be compiled. It doesn't say compiled D, like my other ones do. Um, it, I could actually say maybe that will be confusing. I'm going to call it application. Or I'll tell you, I'm just going to be really descriptive. Compile ready. There we go. We got a lot of letters. Why not use them? Okay. So we have our application in its raw mode. We have it in a compile ready state. And now we're going to compile it. Now, I'm going to just open this up like I've been, and you'll see what happens. See that? I can't get in here and do anything right now. It's opening up, running, okay? But you'll see I'm not getting. I got it. I got this up here. That doesn't make any sense for this, right? I'm not managing data here, so why am I getting a home thing that says manage data? Again, this is the built-in ribbon that they give you, okay? But I want to have mine. When mine comes up, there won't be anything up here for this one. It'll only be there for the subject reports. Subject forms, and then the reports. So I'm going to close it down again and open it up into design mode, basically. Okay, application design mode. That was application execution mode, basically. But I hate to call it that. Um, it's more of an auto exec mode. Um, and sometimes you have to move off of it to do it, but then move back on and hold down your shift key. Okay, so the key you hold down to go to uppercase with your letters and all that, hold that key down and then double click on this and keep holding it down now. All right. Now, you'll see the LACCDB was created here. Keep holding it down, by the way. All right. But Access did not open it. Yes, it did. It actually opened silently. All right. If you go down, I'm here on my taskbar. That's where I see it typically. You may see it on your desktop. I'm going to come down here, and while I'm holding that shift key down yet, open up Access. Oops, I didn't do that right. I'm sorry, that's wrong. That's wrong. Take your finger off your shift key right now. Just click on the Access to open it up. Now, you see it's opened up in default mode. If you have a thing right now that says enable application, or if you don't, whatever, keep holding down hold down your shift key now. Click on File, and if it says Enable Application, click that. All right, and then if it doesn't go back there, go back here. You can take your hand off the Shift key, but you want to get to this state now. Okay, I'm not holding the Shift key down now. All right, you want to get to this state because now I could actually open up if I wanted to again. Now we're not seeing that stuff, so there's nothing to do there. Okay, You need to be here right now, though, in order to compile this thing. All right. So, how do we do that? Go up to File and say Save As. And then you'll see over here an option that says Make ACCDE. Click on that. All right. You could double click it, or just click it and then do Save As. I'm going to just double click on Make ACCDE. Now it's going to ask me where I want to have that file, and it should be in the same place that the original file is. Just save it there. Save it. Bam. It's done. Now, it's going to run it again, all right? But we don't, this is still not it, all right? Let's close this down again. You can do it from here, or you can do it up here. I'll do it up here in the corner since I did the other place last time. Bam, close it down, okay? So now you'll see your ACCDB file is still there, but you'll also see this ACCDE file, all right? Right now, you have actually compiled it. You compiled all your objects. Everything is compiled and ready to go, except it still brings up the built-in ribbons, and the built-in ribbons could give you a problem. So to take care of that, and I truly don't know why Microsoft didn't just take care of it all right now. But what they want to do you to do as a last step is to create what's called a runtime version of this file. And to do that, one of the hardest things you're going to do all semester, no, not at all. Go to the ACCDE file, click rename, and on the ACCDE, make it ACCDR. That's it. You're just changing the extension. Now you're going to hit, when I hit my enter key to do that, you'll get a thing that says, if you change the file extension, it might become unstable. Are you sure you want to change it? Say yes. As long as it's ACCDR. All right. You have now the files that I would have you turn in. You will turn in this raw file, and you'll turn in this ACCDR file. If you want to take off, you could delete this ACCDB file, by the way, right now. We're done with it. All right. Well, I wouldn't say do it yet. Make sure your ACCDR really works. Okay. But I go later on, if I want to delete that and rename my raw file to be back to just make it ACCDB, you could do that. That'd be fine. All right. I think I told you to turn in a file for A07-01. That's your name. .ACCDB. If you want, you can name it -raw, whatever you want to. Okay. It doesn't have to necessarily be that name, but I'm looking for the file that was in the state it was before you compiled, and then this runtime version, compiled runtime version. I am going to double click on that now to open it up. And you will almost always, even after you've said yes to this, it will open up and say, do you trust this? And just say open, and you're ready to go. And here's your application. Now you'll see here, the switchboard opened up. It's got all the functionality it usually does, but look up here at the top, no ribbon whatsoever. This thing that has, I don't know if you ever looked at this, but this is a way to customize your Access toolbar. You can't do that now, all right? Because some of those things you could throw in that customization toolbar are things that could actually edit objects, and you don't want that. So turn that off. If I go over here to File and I click on that, the only thing you see here are things to print things. That's it, or to exit out of the application. Yeah, there's some privacy stuff, but there is nothing here that could get you into trouble. In other words, nothing here that could take you back to the navigation pane or could take you into any of the objects. All these things, they work just like they did before, okay? So look at that. Let's open up Customer, all right? You notice it open up, and look at this. It's got a tab up there that says Manage Data. And all the things in here are only about managing data, not about editing the object, not about deleting the object. Yeah, you could edit data, you could delete data, you could do anything with data. You can't do anything to the form. You can only use it. Okay, yeah, new customer, I go to new customer, whatever, and I can navigate down here. That all works really well. Yeah, everything's cool. Copacetic, and definitely test these all out. Now, the one thing you might notice This one does not have a, a bar. Why? This was a lookup form. Okay, they're first off, they're never that big. They're really easy to go through. So I just opted that I don't need a ribbon on this one. I don't need them on lookups. Okay, I may make one down the road, but I don't know why I would need it. There's really not anything here that you can't manage just directly from the form. You don't need help, in other words. You don't need to save records. You just move off of them. See product category, same thing, because it's a lookup form. But these ones that were subject forms all have that ribbon up there. Okay, and nothing else from Access is up there. Customer, we saw supplier, same thing, and products. I never went through this. This is actually the same ribbon that you get with data sheets. And it will allow you to do things like delete the record. Right now, I could just do it here, or you could do it here and then just hit the delete key, highlight it, and hit delete. And then if I hit delete right now, it would say, "Do you really want to do that?" If I say, "Yeah," it would go away. And so would all its children that we allowed Cascade Delete to work on. So supplemental children could, and junction children could probably. I'm going to say no there because I don't want to lose it. But I could have done it up here too. Well, actually, I have to actually highlight that, and then I can say delete here, bam, and does the same thing. And delete record or just delete. I guess I could, if I put a new value in here, I could do a delete and it'll delete just that value. But be careful with delete always. You could save the record. You could have a new one. This would be like hitting new product, when it's at this level. It'll hit new and it put a new record in it. Or you could just use the navigation like we have been and do a new record, a blank record right there. You could do spell check in this thing. It's kind of nice. Um, you these ones you can use them, but be careful. Remember, we typically open this up sorted on something. Like this one, it's probably sorted on, yeah, the product name. Well, if we do the drop down here, we'll see those are all sorted by product name, and that's what it's the first record is that. Okay, so we sorted the records on product name. I could actually, after it opens, change the sort on it. Not on the form, not on the order by property, but just with the record set that I'm dealing with right now. So if I wanted to say show them in descending order on the English name, I could do descending, and now you see, yeah, that looks like the last one in the list, and I could go back to ascending, and in fact, I could do this, and I could then say remove the sort, and it goes back. Oh, it just took the sort out of there. Now we're seeing the ones that are actually the records as they were they are in the table. I had this one in there first. So and I could go and put it back on here. I could say ascending. Now it's ascending again. There is a way to actually create filters for things. So maybe I only want to see the ones that are meat and poultry. I could actually do that. I could, and its syntax is very much like building a query. I could go up here and do. Let's see, apply filter by form, and now I think. See, I always thought that would just do it. If I just do filter by form, whatever I had in there is what it would filter on. But I'm not seeing things go away. All right, so maybe that doesn't come into play. I could make a filter though, like this, or I could say on the products, make it equal to a certain thing. I'm not going to do that because that's a foreign key field. Let's just say maybe I want the ones that begin with the letter A. So I could go in here and I could say criteria like, um, I think I just say A star. I don't think I have to put the A in double quotes, but let's see what happens. So I could do that, and then I think if I close it, it's still showing 77. I think I have to apply the filter then. No, they still are all there, aren't they? There is a way to do that, using that to apply filters. But you know what? I don't like this at all anyway. Oh, I had no way to save it. That's why. Good. Well, shoot, I wish there was. You know what I need to do in the future is take those out. I never noticed that before. But anyway, they can't do anything. They can't mess around with it anyway. I need to take away that advanced thing, get it out of there. Um, I could do a search and replace. So, like, if maybe I had, I don't know, a word in here that I wanted to change, maybe instead of saying lambs, and I got it in multiple ones, I could do a replace, and it's just like doing a place on a list in Access. I could do a go to, uh, the last record and all that. Of course, you've got that down here in the navigation, and then I've got select where it will select uh, this one, or I could do select all, and then that actually selected all the records. So be careful. If I did delete now, it'll delete all the records. Very dangerous. Again, it's something I probably should turn off. If by the way, if you're doing a lot of things and you just you just say refresh all, and it'll take it back to the last time it was saved. All right, so that's a good thing to have. All this text formatting, that would be for things like I go into the data revisions or notes because it's all right. You see, those just turned on. I could do things like highlight parts of this if I want to. Make March, let's say I want March to be bold, and red and all that. I could do that kind of stuff. That's neat. Change the font, all that. It's basically a little text editor that you get up there. And again, if I wanted to, you got a copy and a paste and a cut and all that up there. So that's stuff you would typically do to data, right? And so it's available for the data, but it's not available for the object. That's the nice thing. So let's get out of there. All right. Now let's look at reports. So reports had a different ribbon. And when I open this one up, remember it comes up in report view, not in print preview. So, but I have a lot of things up here I could do with it, even report view. I could print it out and it would just print out page after page, without page headings or page footers or anything like that. It would just come out at page after page, printed out, and I can't view it any other way in report mode, but you can in print preview. And I could create a PDF. I could go like this, and bam, hit the. Yeah, that's good. Let's publish it somewhere. I'm gonna put it on my H drive. Yeah, there, my H drive. Publish it, and you see, yeah, I always get that page width thing too. Don't worry about that. But I just published that, and there it is. Nice. Hey, nice looking report. See what the page width did? Came out a little bit over. I'm starting to think I have to keep it under that dot 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 by a little bit in order to get it just right on these things. I'll have to make a note about that. Anyway, but that's the ribbon for um, a regular report view. The ribbon for print preview, all customers was print. Ooh, what? Oh, that should not have happened. I hope I didn't mess something up there. I have a little bug that I didn't catch. I must have done something that caused that to happen. Let's go to supplier. Yeah, okay, it's print preview. If that happens to you, don't worry. I won't take off points for that. I did something, obviously. I changed something that caused that thing not to open up correctly. Um, but you can see here now, this is print preview. And not only do I have the ability to print, but I could also do things like zoom in and out of this thing. And I can, right now it's one page. I can show 2 pages on the screen if I want to. I can show 4 pages if I want to. I don't know if I could do, oh yeah, here's 4 pages. Boy, shoot, why would I want to do that? Anyway, and I could get a PDF of this, and then that would be paged. Then it would each one of these pages would be rendered on a page by itself. So anyway, that's how it works. Man, that really bothered me. I wonder what happens when I do this. Huh? Well, that's weird. That opened up. Not all customers did. I wonder why. Yeah, I gotta figure out what's going. I have a little error there somewhere. Let me just look at it quick. Open report. Normal. No, it should work. Wonder what this 5 is. That should have come up. Maybe it looks like it didn't want to open up in print preview for some reason. Huh, I'll have to find that out. But anyway, if that happens, you just stop the macro. Unfortunately, it's going to take down your application. But that's one of those things you want to make sure you catch before you actually compile the thing. And unfortunately, I didn't catch that, so I'll fix that. And again, don't worry about that if that happens to you on the assignment. It shouldn't happen on the assignment. I think that's particular to this tutorial. I'll have to fix that up. Um, the customer labels, again, they'll come up with the same print ribbon, and the catalog will come up with the same print ribbon, and I could generate a PDF of the catalog just like I showed you when we built this to begin with. Okay, I've got my information deal. Bam, hits that. Cool. Got my splash screen, and then I've got, do I want to quit? We can say no, yes, and it takes it down. How about that? Now again, you may have noticed I um, that this is not turned off up here. Okay, the Windows stuff is not turned off. Um, so I could hit an X right now and it would just take it down, which I don't like that very much. I wish there was a way that I could override it. And I've looked into that several times and I've never been able to figure out how to make it run my close rather than its close. One of these days I will figure that out, or they will give me the capability to do that. The other place you could close it down, unfortunately, is also here, this exit, and see it just closed down. It didn't prompt. But that's why I made that button so big, that people would be attracted to it and say, oh, okay, that's the one I really should use. Bam, and close it down. So that's how you build an application. Pretty straightforward. Just a bunch of steps that you have to follow. Not a lot of typing. In fact, most of the typing is to pick things from lists. I think, in fact, the only thing you have to type out is the title of the application. Before I do that, hold on. Before I do that, the other thing I mentioned was that uh, the title of the application, you'll notice it was up there to what I changed it to. And when I open up that dialog, you'll notice that I could put, right now I got the version of the Ball library in here, but I got a version for the application that says 217.08, blah, blah, blah. That's a code that means it was built in August 18th. The version is August 18th of 2017. So, again, I could change that to 2020 to make it, and the date and all that, just to make it right. So, um, and I think that's it. So, the last thing I wanted to show you is there is a checklist for this. Okay, the checklist is basically the same thing as what is in the tutorial, but it's a nice thing to do. You put it in front of you and you say, like I said, make a backup copy, create the database, create a backup copy. The one that's optional is 2. You don't have to do that one. Copy over the ribbons, copy over, custom, rename the ribbon, set the ribbon name, set the that says ribbon name. It should say form name. I'll fix that. Form name. Set the ribbon names. Property, and then do this. And I say replace queries here. I really ought to make that a precursor thing, but I'll leave it there for now. Hide the application objects in the frame. Close down the navigation pane. Compact and repair. Close the file. Back up the compile ready version of it, and then reopen the application file by holding the shift key, and then compile the application using the ACCDE. After that's created, close it down, and then go and rename ACCDE to ACCDR, and then run it and make sure everything works, so that you don't get a little pop-up message saying that something didn't work when you hit it like I just did. Now I got to do this all again to make it right. Fix that and then do it all again to make it right. But so what? I know how to do it. And then remember, your ability to run this thing is going to depend on the machine that you actually compiled it on. I just compiled this on a 32-bit version of Access running on a 32-bit machine. So it will run on 32-bit machines. It will not run on a 64-bit machine. If you do it on a 64-bit machine, it won't run on a 32-bit machine. I do hope that is something that Microsoft will eventually fix. It is something that just popped up in Access 2007. It used to always work no matter what version you used. But I get that bit sequencing is different, and a lot of applications in the world, not just Access, has issues with it. So, um, what will happen is in another 10 years, 32-bit machines will have gone by the way of the dinosaur and everything will be 64-bit, and then will go back to a single way of doing this. However, believe it or not, they're already coming out with 128-bit machines, and they're already working on technology for 256. So, we may always have this situation where we have to have multiple different kinds of access in order to do this. So, the thing is, the steps I just did work for both 32 and 64. So what I typically do, and you obviously have seen this all semester because I have 32 and 64-bit versions, I just take that raw file and I go through the same process on both of them, and that makes it work. So I'm both a 32-bit compiler and a 64-bit compiler, and that makes it work. Now, it does still require that you have access on your machine in order to run. What if you don't? Okay, I mean, you just made a compiled thing that's runtime capable and all that. Are you telling me that only people with access in the world will be able to run your runtime compile? No. Turns out Microsoft actually has a runtime object that's available on its site that people who don't have access can download it onto their machine for free, put your application on there, and it will run. All right. They won't have any other of the capabilities that you have in Access. They'll only have the ability to run a runtime version of an Access file. And that's nice, okay? I do want to caution you though. If you do have Access on your machine, do not download the runtime version. If you do, it will overwrite your version of Microsoft Access and you will be hosed. You will have to basically go out and not only delete Access, but delete your entire Microsoft Office suite and reinstall it. Okay, I've had two students do that in the past. It is a lot of work. All right. I almost accidentally did it myself once when I was first exploring Access in the runtime version. I was just about ready to install it, and I thought, no, I better check to see if this would hurt Access. And I went out and found a guy who had documented that, so he saved my butt. But anyway, I want to make sure that you know that there is a way to deliver your application independent of having Microsoft Access on the machine, but you do have to have the runtime module. All right, so again, one of the things I always hope will happen someday is Microsoft will make a true compiler for Access. Every database language I have ever dealt with in the past had a true compiler that at the end I had an exe file basically that I could deliver to anybody, and they didn't need anything. They didn't have to download any software or anything. All they had to do was install the application I gave them and it ran. Pretty much like the things you do with C, that you get an ex, you create binary files and then you compile them and you get an exe file, and then you don't need those binary files. You don't need your source code. You don't need a special application in order to run the exe file. It just runs by itself. I keep hoping that will happen with Access, but it's been close to 30 years that I've been using it. Well, not that long, maybe 25 years that I've been using Access, and they have never done that. So, even though I hope they will, I don't have a lot of hope that it will happen. So, anyway, I wouldn't hold my breath anyway. And I will fix this. So I fixed this error in here, and I'll put it out on the references. I had ribbon name here. It should say form name. Oh no, I take it back. That's right. Set ribbon name to RBN form for all forms. Set ribbon name RBN report for all report objects. So that is correct. I don't need to fix that up. So I believe that's it now for lesson 7. You now know how to build all the objects that we're concerned with. The only object I haven't shown you how to build is what's called a procedure object, which is an Access basic, all right, a Visual Basic object in Access. We have basically learned how to build a complete information system without doing any real, what I would call, coding. Yeah, I know macros are a little bit like coding because they do have logic in them. Some of our expressions look like codes because they have logic in it, or they may have parameter codes, okay? And so they look a little bit like variables and things like that, but we really haven't truly program coded here. We have done a different kind of programming, a programming that's based on objects. That's called object oriented programming. Now, those of you who do go on and specialize in things like this, you'll find out that even this is not truly object oriented. This is called object based. Okay, in object oriented programs, languages, and tools, there's other capabilities that you don't get with Access. But for what we needed to do with databases, Access was very, very good. Okay, it did a lot for us. It's almost like a Visual Basic, in that a lot of the stuff is done through what you see is what you get, visual programming. But at the same time, we don't have that raw code that we dealt with. The truth is, you could. Okay, Access does have the ability to do that. You can mix them. The objects that we had in this, maybe instead of doing macros for them, we could have wrote procedural, Access basic procedures. As it turns out, when we compiled, we created the ACCDE file. The macros were compiled, and when they were compiled, they were actually converted into Access basic modules and procedures. So they were converted and then they were compiled in the background. You could do that yourself if you want to, by the way. There is a way to compile your macros and on your own. But it's just as easy if you're going to make a runtime version to let the ACCD do it for you. You don't need to do it on your own. I know people, in fact, the majority of people I know who have ever worked with Microsoft Access have mainly done the automation stuff through Access Basic. Or it was called Access Basic. I think it's called Visual Basic for Applications now. And it's in the background because it turns out the one for Access is very much the same as the one for Excel, is the same for Word. All the ones that have Visual Basic automation capability, it's pretty much the same language. I know there's idiosyncrasies for each of the Microsoft Office applications, but nothing major. I think they work interchangeably, pretty much the Access code. So anyway, for this class again, I didn't want you to have to do that because this is not a programming class. This is a class about learning the different elements of an information system, and we have learned them all. We have learned how to do data representation through tables and relationships. We learned how to do dialogue, what's called system dialogue, through forms and other things where we interact with the system. Navigation things, for instance, is a type of a dialogue. We learned how to visualize data in reports. I didn't get into the visualization that you could do with analytics. I may do that yet, and in fact, I probably will do that when we get to lesson 8. I'll talk about logic and how we can do analytics. I should tell you that there is some analytic capability available in the 2007. I'm sorry, the 2013, 2017, and 2019 versions of Access. There is some visualization capability, but not a lot. They took it out when Microsoft developed Power BI, and Microsoft's intention is that instead of doing graphics, visual aids of or visual analyses in either Excel or Access or any of its other products, that you would use Visual Power BI instead. BI means business intelligence. Power BI instead, and then which is integrated with those products. And you could do that. You could do that with Access. You could call a Power BI technique, and it will open and it will suck the data from Access over and open up a visualization of it. And same thing with Excel, it'll do the same thing with Excel. However, before Power BI existed, Access did have some analytic visualization techniques. I used to use them in this class, things like line charts, histograms, cross tabs, and pivot charts. The truth is, they weren't very easy to use in Access, and they didn't have a lot of customization capability. So Access dropped them, but you could still find them if you really wanted to use them. They are there. There's a If you go up to the control when you're in design mode on a form or a report, and you go up to the controls box, you'll see one in there for a graphic, and you could dump it in, and it'll actually even have a wizard to help you build it. I do not want you to use those. Okay, again, I think it's something that's outside the scope of this class now, because analytics have become a lot more intricate, and we would touch upon it more in the advanced class. And I'm sure there will be analytics classes in the future that will allow you to hook up Access databases to those. Most of your really great analytics packages, like Power BI, like um, Quick, I think is the name of the one, or Click. I'm sorry, Click starts with a Q. QLIK. Uh, SAP Business Objects. Um, I'm forgetting a big one. Which one is it? Oh, um, it's the biggest selling one, and it's not coming to my head right now. Um, the one at Power BI always Tableau. Tableau. Tableau is the biggest seller right now, but that always could change. Microsoft has a tendency to one up people, and after a while, and lowball them as far as prices go. So it will probably become. But I would suggest, if you were wanting to do some analytics and explore that a lot, and especially analytics working with either Access or Excel or both, that use Power BI. You could get a free version of it for yourself. You won't be able to deliver anything with it, but you can at least learn how to use it and everything, and then later on get a license so you can actually develop with it, or your boss can, or whatever. Um, but that's another kind of report object that we didn't get to deal with. There's other navigation methods. There's a navigation form that I didn't use in this class, that I'm because there was some deficiencies in it that in this most recent version of Access have been fixed. So in the future, I may use it a little bit more. There is another subject form that's called a split form, where half of it is a single record and the other half is basically a data sheet. I don't like to use it because it allows data sheet capability that could really mess you up, but there is a way to mimic it by using putting a basically the single record in the fields for a single record in a footer, and then in the detailed section make it a multi-record form, and you can basically do the same thing. I will probably show that before this class ends, a new example a new application I've been working on, where I've done things like that. I've got several updates to the BOW that I've been making, where things will be hopefully a little bit easier in the future, but it'll also give the students capability to do things uh, outside of what we've done in this class. So, but I think for the most part, you know enough right now to go out and start developing some pretty nice applications in your life. You definitely have enough to go out and create a really good project for the end of this class. Again, the A07 and the project P03, you will create the application, and then you will create a runtime version of it. You will turn in both the files, both the raw application and then the compiled slash runtime version, and you'll be ready to rock and roll. Um, there are other capabilities in Access that I didn't cover, such as creating, doing the menus, you creating your own menus. I will show you some other menus I've used where I use the menus to actually navigate rather than a switchboard. There's several different ways to navigate. I just showed you the one that is probably the most commonly used, definitely the one that's easiest for students to use. So, but just know that's out there too. But anyway, at this point, you know enough to go out and start doing some things, and hopefully, you'll be able to use this in your career. Um, I will be giving you the files for the AO7 and for PO3. The file for PO3 will have all the BAL objects. It's basically just a copy of the BAL that I renamed PO3-yourname.accdb. All right, but you'll have all the objects you need, and then you'll be able to do whatever you need to do in order to make your projects work. So that's the end of the tutorials for lesson 7. Uh, in class, I'll go over the guidelines for the third project, and but I think you could look at the assignment AO7 and figure out it's pretty much doing the same type of things that we just did for this customer orders database, for a contacts database. The contacts database we've been using all semester, doing the same type of thing. You're going to create a switchboard. I give you a switchboard object, and you're going to use it to create command buttons to open up your forms and your reports. You're going to customize the dialog box. You're going to create a control, combo box control and button that will open up a report based on the contact that's selected from the list, and it's going to have all the logic for things that could go wrong, like having a null value in there or having a report that has no records. You're going to do exactly the same thing, and then you're going to compile it and create the runtime for it, just like we did here in this video. So we're going to end this video right now, and this may be the last video for this class unless I put some together for lesson 8 logic. But the next thing you're going to be doing after you get done with your AO7 is to work on your project, so you may as well get started with it. Thank you very much.